forgot
You
to
don't
do
want to
that
be
last
recorded.
time.
Yeah, I don't know how it works with Zoom, but yeah, we tried to record them. With Jitsi, it's super easy.
Gotcha. I'll try to do something else. I'll do Jitsi next time.
Yeah, I like Jitsi. Okay, so hey guys, we got the full team. Maybe we can start with intros. I think most people know each other, but you know, let's just try it anyway. So my name's Griff Green. I work with Giveth. I'm not really working on this team, although right now I'm the captain. So I will give that up pretty soon. And I'm just really organizing a project, like a real project, for this to be done for the real world, you know? And I'm hoping that we can use this hackathon to do to win, number one, and number two, actually start prototyping things that we want to build. So yeah, but I'm not actually going to be part of the hackathon. I'm actually going to be a Jedi that kind of walks around and helps everyone. But pre-hackathon, I'm with this team 100%. I'll pass it to Chris.
Yeah, so I'm also not part of the team and just checking in to like learn exactly what you guys are gonna do. So I'm Chris, working with Giveth, and I work on communications. And the idea for me is just to get the overview of the entire picture and to help putting the pieces of the puzzle together. Also normally going to be a Jedi at the event for communications, so helping out different teams. Can help with like presentations or pitching, or you can just use me to like, yeah, you know, exercise your pitch or whatever you want me to do. I'll help in any way possible. Just call on me. And I give it to Max.
Hi, Max. Like from the technical point of view, I can do design, not so much a developer, but super interested in the topic, working in several orgs that support this kind of design, like Digger Foundation, work with Griff a bit on signaling solution, on DAO incubator as well. I'm trying mostly to organize things. And passing it to Dim.
Hi, I'm Deem. I'm a developer, and I've been in Giveth and doing some different projects. And right now, I'm at Pando, and I'm mostly doing front-end stuff with JavaScript and React.js. Yeah, I give it to Ome.
Hello. I don't know if you can hear me well because I think I don't have very good connection. I work at BT. I don't know if you know us. I'm a software engineer. I can do also communication. I'm mostly doing nowadays product design. So I would appreciate if I can go back to the trenches and do some development for the hackathon. And I guess now I have to pass it to Abby. Abby, I don't know how to say.
Abby. Yeah, I'm not part of this team either. I'm actually the captain of Team 1, but I want to stay apprised to what you guys are thinking for Scope, so we can make sure that we're all integrating correctly and building with each other, and here to help in whatever capacity as well. So.
And then pass it to someone.
Oh, sorry. I'm like very distracted. Who hasn't gone yet? Everybody's gone, right?
How about Dap Lion?
Except Chris? Dap Lion.
Hey, Dap Lion.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, I would need, can you give me a brief update? Is this about the Odyssey hackathon?
Yeah, it is.
And I see it's, is this a call for a specific team or for all of them at the same time?
This is for your team.
Yep. Just our team.
Okay, so we are called the Commons.
No, that's just the Jitsi.
Okay. Yeah, I'm extremely busy because I'm working with 2 projects at the same time, so I have paid basically zero attention to everything. I just want to do cool stuff, and whatever Griff showed me back in Thailand sounds cool. So I can do, I'm a full stack, so I have done some front end. Doesn't look too great, but it works fine. I can do also some Python and Solidity. So yeah, any hardcore development, I'm down to it.
And then Jeff, yeah.
Oh, and I pass it to Jeff.
Hey everybody, I think I know most of the people here, or maybe we haven't met yet, but yeah, I'm working with Giveth to kind of, and Giveth and block science, trying to kind of like translate the research into applicable ideas, which we are breaking out into these hackathon groups. So I guess I'll be kind of looking at it from a big picture and making sure all the pieces fit together and working with each of the teams. So hoping to keep in the loop on everything that's going on with Team 3. Very exciting stuff. And
Yeah.
Is that everybody?
I think so. I think we have one hell of a call. Thanks all for showing up. The goal for this call is to kind of make sure that everyone is on board with the scope, or at least to kind of talk about what the scope is that we're going to try to build for the big system, but more specifically for our little piece of it, and then also figure out what skills we need for the hackathon, because we have right now we have 4 people, but we need 2 more people. So and we'll have no problem finding them. It's just really we can get to be picky. So what do we want? So yeah, well, let's start with scope, and maybe I can just give a brief overview of the big picture, and then we can bring it down to our little piece of it. So because I think a lot of people here are not fully aware of the big piece. Basically, there's 3 teams in this hackathon, all working on one project. Abby's team, Team 1, is working on the token bonding curve. People send money in, people get tokens back. There's a bunch of complicated shit that happens, but in the end, there's a token and there's a price, and there's a predictable way and a good way for people to understand what those prices are. So that's kind of Team 1, right? Team 2 is working really closely with us on the same module. So when people buy into the token bonding curve, they get a token which gives them power to vote. Specifically, our topic is going to be scaling wildlife. And I don't know if anyone else watched this video, probably not, but it sounds like reforestation is at least a good working topic for the time being. So the goal will be to support the commons of reforesting, let's say Indonesia, because that's where the guy was from, and we might as well suck up as much as possible. So let's reforest Indonesia, and this is the goal. And anyone who buys into the commons is speculating, almost like a startup, but for supporting Indonesia, right, and reforesting the islands. So when they get their tokens, they actually get to vote on which projects to support in that will do reforestation. So Team 2 is really focusing on, like, how does the vote mechanics work? Basically, we use this system called conviction voting, which is like the longer you hold, there's no time deadlines for voting. Basically, you have a list that you're trying to order, and you get to decide, you get to vote whenever you want, and you put in, the longer your vote stays on an item, the more power it has. So if you change your votes a lot, they won't ever get to full power. But if you let your vote sit somewhere, then it'll accumulate more power as time goes on. And it'll asymptote out to a specific piece, a maximum amount, right? So if you have 10 tokens, the maximum conviction might be like 100 or something like that. But if you vote with 10 tokens on a specific project and you say, hey, I want to allocate 100% of my voting weight to, buying land in Indonesia to stop reforestation, this one specific milestone, then the first day it'll be worth 10, the next day it'll be worth 19, the next day it'll be worth 27, and it'll just kind of go on like that. And our specific project goal is to kind of split the effort of the conviction module and focus on the proposal side. So how do we actually add things to this list? How do things get taken off the list? When do things get taken off the list? Obviously, when they're triggered, like when they have enough conviction that means it's supported by the DAO. But also, like, what if it doesn't have support? Does it just stay on there forever? this is a problem we have to solve because we don't want to have extra bandwidth of things that are never going to get support on the list. And then there's also actually making it so that when the DAO funds proposals, the money is still in XDAI. So in this system, maybe I'll share my screen for a second because Abby and Zargam made an awesome diagram that I don't need to do it. Basically, there's like two flows, right? There's the tokens. So tokens are being bought into the bonding curve. But then there's also DAI, specifically XDAI. So we're going to try to do this all on the XDAI network, or at least that's what we'll say. Maybe it's all on a test net, right? But either way, the idea is that we use XDAI and that the underlying currency is XDAI. So when people propose milestones like, hey, I want to buy this piece of land and reforest it, then they actually say how much XDAI they need. And when then the pool allocates funds when they've reached enough conviction, then XDAI will go into a Giveth milestone and sit there until they can collect the money, whatever requirements the milestone says, right? And when they push to collect the money, that XDAI is actually turned into tokens using the token bonding curve. It buys into the token bonding curve and then sends tokens to the people that were requesting the funds. And with those tokens, they can sell those tokens into the bonding curve and get XDAI back right away, or they can hold those tokens and basically speculate on the value of the token. So that's kind of the flow, and we have some specific requirements, or at least we have some specific scope around the proposal side of things. Making it so that list shows up is a lot of work, and integrating it with Giveth. Luckily, we have Giveth, so we don't have to do a whole lot of work on Giveth. We have to add like a little piece that says when money is received from this giver, which would be the DAO, the reforestation DAO, reforestation commons. When they send XDAI in, the smart contract needs to know that any XDAI sent in from them needs to be turned into tokens. We have to add that little piece to Giveth, and then the rest is just how do we take a milestone on Giveth and add it to a conviction voting list, and that's all fresh that we have to build from scratch. So we have initial designs on the larger picture. Again, there is a whole team of people that is working on this, Max included, and Chris is part of it. Abby, and me, we're actually building this for real. It's still kind of early stages, but we're working with block science and this alien from the future named Michael Zargam, who he has amazing designs, and we've actually done a lot of the design work already on potential like mathematical models for how this stuff can work. And that's linked in this Google Doc, which I sent in the Jitsi. It's called Conviction Voting Module. And it kind of goes through the flows. And you can see like some really preliminary ideas of the fund flow, which is us. Sorry, it says team 4, but it should be team 3. And also the trigger function, which I think will fall under our scope. There's a lot of interface with team 2. So if we fall behind or they fall behind, we can, I think right now we're taking on more scope than they are, so we might pass something to them. But yeah, so maybe at this stage, I'll open up for questions and we can like dive into more specific topics. I'm sure most of that didn't make sense. Yeah, Max?
So we will need to do a presentation on after we develop it. Are we using this opportunity to develop the product, or are we trying to? Are we really trying to win the category, and how it's connected to the category?
We are definitely trying to win the category. That is our first objective. winning is more important than building out something for the larger project. I do think that we can. I feel like there's a lot of benefit that can be had by using the work that the larger project is doing, and jumping off that, because Odyssey has like a love for simulations and all this stuff, and so the larger project's going to do a lot of that initial work that will sell the project. But the main goal is to win. There's 10 grand at stake, so like let's take it, you know. And it's just fun to win.
Okay, I just don't like, I couldn't follow, you know, how building the proposal system can help reforestation. Maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, so we are part of a larger team, like we're 3 teams. So the proposal system is an integral part of the larger product, and the proposal system actually is itself going to be really easy to highlight the reforestation thing, because we can make all these pretty pictures on Giveth that say, oh, look, here's an idea of reforesting this and reforesting that, and oh, we want to plant trees here, and we want to, you know, convince somebody to like plant their fields somewhere else or whatever, right? And so we can make all these little proposals in Giveth that represent ideas for reforestation, and then we can basically show how they could all be funded in a transparent way, and we can show how like we have the common system that could fund these projects, but there's another piece where it's like if the governance isn't working perfectly, or like someone who's participating in governance is like, oh man, I can't get enough conviction to make this proposal pass, they can donate to the milestone directly, which will lower the conviction required because it lowers the amount of money asked, and then the proposal could pass. So like there's these cool interactions that we can do, and it helps reforestation by helping prioritize like which options are the best, and as part of the larger picture, bringing in funding by building an economy around the idea of reforestation. So I know that sounds crazy, but it's my favorite example is Namecoin. They built an economy around .bit domains, and no one gives a fuck about .bit domains, but yet everyone in the world right now can register .bit domains because every actor in the system is operating in their own best interest. That incentivizes the commons to survive, and there's no reason for .bit domains like to really be around. And it's amazing that they are around, even though no one uses them. If it was a startup or a nonprofit, it would have died a long time ago. But because it's an economy, it survives. And so now if we can take that model out of the digital realm and put it into reforestation, we can actually we can experiment with this idea in a safe way without affecting like real people who want to participate in reforestation, because it's a dangerous experiment. But if we use Giveth and they make proposals on Giveth and the whole thing blows up, they still have their proposals on Giveth, which can receive funding from anyone.
Okay, another topic. They mentioned that between the dApps and the protocol, they want to have protocols applied for this challenge. And so the question is like, it feels to me like I understand the level of application, but are we building an application or protocol? What do you feel?
Well, we're building I don't know if it's really a protocol per se, but like the whole thing is a stack, right? Like this could be applied to specific pieces in reforestation. It could also be applied to like saving the African elephant. So it is, in a way, I don't know if that defines it as a protocol, but it's definitely like something we can use for lots of things.
Maybe I can take a crack at that. So I guess, you know, we're all blockchains are incentive machines, essentially, incentivizing different behaviors. Bitcoin is to use electricity. Namecoin is for ENS type services. Essentially, what we are looking to do is to do that properly, I guess. And Zargam really has a pretty clear roadmap, at least of where to research to build this common stack. And this common stack is kind of like a blank slate. So it could be used by anyone who wants to start a cause anywhere in the world. So, I mean, we're using rainforests as a concrete example because that's easy for people to understand the impact and the benefit. But really, what we're looking to build is kind of this infrastructure stack where anybody can spin up a cause at the click of a button and have a couple of different governance options, a couple of different token bonding curve options, a couple of different decision-making options, or conviction voting versus maybe a traditional TCR. You know, these can kind of be modules that people can choose to include in their commons initiative, whatever that is. So right now we're kind of like building each individual component of that. If that helps to clear up how that's related to rainforest example.
Would we present together, or each team will be separate?
Each team will be separate, but presenting together. Like, we will each present our piece of it, but there is a huge effort, and Jeff, you can back me up on this, to actually combine all the pieces, right? Or like to have people be working together.
Yeah, so this is definitely this hackathon is all about commonization. And all of these products, everyone, I just went to the deep dives last month, and I met Jan Peter of Nature 2.0, who wants all of this. Sat down with him and we talked it through, and he said, you know, he will bend over backwards to make sure we get whatever resources we need, because this is what everyone's looking for. It's a properly modeled, simulated, mathematically formulated, you know, verified system that we can start with small scale and build up. He basically said if we win the Nature 2.0, I think he wants to take like the winning team and perhaps even an amalgamation of these teams. I believe they're going to have some airtime at like the World Fair in Dubai, something like that. And he has an incredible team around him, videographers and speech, like TED Talk super performers and illustrators and visuals. And he's really wanting to take this message and blow it up. So I think this is the perfect opportunity for all of these, and we're not exactly sure how the collaborations will work, but they definitely encourage different tracks to collaborate because they know also that this is a multifaceted problem. So I think of anyone going in, we are the most prepared. We have the most, you know, the best chance and the best shot at this. And I think if we can scope it out properly and really kick ass out there, we got some big things ahead of us.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I basically from our interactions with the organizers, like we're the favorites. And this track, I will say, is kind of like, it's kind of the like, okay, we just needed a third team, and this is the best track that we could fit in. Nature 2.0 and scaling ecosystems were like clearly we were part of that, and then we kind of threw in scaling wildlife because it was the best of the like topic oriented, right? There was like renewable energy and there were like some other ones, but they were a little more specific in what they want, and they didn't fit us. This group, they were more broad and they wanted a protocol, and especially listening to the guys talk, I think it's a slam dunk for like winning. I think we'll blow his mind. And then the other group that's working kind of above us is doing inclusive banking, and they're kind of bringing that idea of like, okay, well, we have like scaling we have reforestation commons, we have Save the African Elephant commons, we have help the homeless in Barcelona commons, and inclusive banking will kind of create a market for all of them. Because what's really cool here is we're supporting the commons into a speculative investment that people can trade like they trade on the New York Stock Exchange, right? How awesome would it be if instead of buying stocks in Google, you buy tokens in reforestation and tokens and all the saving the African elephant, because you're like, damn, not enough people supporting the elephants these days. This is a great opportunity to get in. Like this is the model, and inclusive banking is going to try to. Hopefully, they're having the meeting right now, but hopefully they're going to bring that home.
I have a question just to clarify. So even though we are one big team, we are competing in different categories?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So there's 5 teams in each category. Sorry about that. So there's 5 teams in each category, and everyone in each, first off, just being accepted, everyone gets some money, which is cool. So we'll probably get like $500 or something just for participating. But we're going to compete against 4 other teams for the total 10K package. And I think like initial idea was that the winner will get somewhere between $7,000 and $5,000. And then second place will get something, third place will get something. But like that's the money package. But then we're also going to be on stage, like on the world stage, and in front of all these like high-powered connectors in like Jeff was saying in the Netherlands, that will connect us to like global opportunities. So it should be. I think that we can win scaling wildlife. And I also think that we'll end up going further with this as well. And we're not going to be competing against each other, right? Because we're in different tracks.
Wanted to ask about the use case, if I understood it correctly. So, for example, like the locals in where are they, Philippines or where again?
Indonesia.
Indonesia. Yeah, so some locals in Indonesia say, hey, we want to plant some trees in this area. Like we need like 10K, for example. They put this proposal on Giveth, and there's also like another like 10 villages posting such proposals. And what happens then?
So the general idea is that for that proposal to be nominated, someone with tokens needs to stake their tokens on that proposal and nominate it. So maybe they'll, based on the amount asked, that amount being asked, there's probably going to be like a minimum amount for 0, like even a request of 0. That's like maybe I don't know. Like we get to determine some of this stuff because it hasn't been totally scoped out. But let's just say like a 1 token for every $1. Right, so if they're asking for $1,000, then you need 1,000 tokens.
Which tokens?
The reforestation tokens. So the tokens that you buy out of the token bonding curve. So that Team 1, Abby's team, is going to deploy a token contract, and we will use that token contract for our project.
And who will possess, like who will be interested to nominate the projects? Will the villagers buy them or?
The villagers can buy them. Anyone in the world can buy them. But the curve will be initialized by people who specifically care about reforestation. So for this whole thing to even start, you have to amass a large group of people, or at least some group of people that care about reforestation, and they will buy. They will seed the curve with, let's say, $1 million, and half the $1 million will stay in the token bonding curve, and then but the other half will actually go to the commons, right? So this whole thing will start with $500,000 ready to be given away, and the people who initialize the curve, they end up having locked tokens, and those tokens only become unlocked as this money gets spent. So for tokens to be vested, they have to support projects that want to do reforestation, that are helping reforestation. So that's kind of how the system is incentivizing people to spend money to support those villagers, right? So when those tokens get staked to that idea, it goes into the conviction voting DAO, where team 2 will build a system that says how other people who are paying a little less attention want, but they can vote and also stake their tokens behind a and staking might be the wrong word. It's definitely the right word for the first group, for the nomination, because if what I would say, at least the design we're working with now, is that if the people who nominate the idea, the project, the milestone, take their tokens away, then it falls off the list, right? But if they stay staked there, then there's a certain amount of total conviction that is required for it to pass. And other people who have tokens can allocate their conviction accordingly to the projects that they like, and they can put a percentage of their token weight behind it, and that will be calculated as conviction, and it will slowly rise through the ranks as people nominate it. And then these villagers, once they're get the right amount of conviction according to team 2's work and our work, there's like what we call a trigger function, which basically calculates how much conviction is required for a given milestone. Once that happens, it gets to the top of the list, and it's funded, right? The pool will send money to the Giveth, and the milestone will receive funding, and then that milestone will probably have a reviewer or something, right? And maybe that milestone gets, maybe that milestone is like a tree of milestones, or it's actually a campaign that has its own milestones. And when people in that campaign will still have it in XDAI. And then, but when the money gets sent to a milestone that's like buy seeds for trees, they will go and buy the seeds, show the receipt, and push the button, and then the XDAI is turned into tokens, and they receive tokens, and then they can push another button that turns it into XDAI, or they cannot, and they can just hold the token.
Okay, so that would, like, for example, we'll have 500,000 locked in these commons, and we have 10 projects for 100K each. So we can then only fund top 5 projects, or how would the selection work?
Yep. Except for when other people can buy into the token bonding curve, and as people buy in and sell, when they sell, there's a fee that also continues to fund the commons, so the commons can grow. The reforestation commons can actually earns money when people speculate. So like when people sell and take a profit, a fee is taken, and it goes to reforestation commons. So they can actually get more money and fund all the projects, hopefully, but probably some of the projects suck. So they shouldn't all be funded, and the people who hold tokens get to decide by allocating the weight of their tokens to the projects that they like.
Okay, and we see that at the initial stages, the speculators would be most interested to fund this before the people who want to donate and sponsor that will come. They will kind of initiate this. But
yeah,
we are strongly motivated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, while they're initializing the curve, they should already have projects on Giveth that are ready to receive the funding. So there's like a build up there, at the beginning, on the cultural side. It's not really something we code.
I have one question. You mentioned that where the locals buy the seeds and they show the receipt, who decides that information is legitimate so that they can actually release funds?
So in Giveth, there's just a reviewer, right? And that reviewer can be a smart contract, it can be a person, it can be an oracle. Normally it's just a person. And this kind of lends to the credibility of the organization. If that reviewer is someone with credibility, then that organization will probably get funded. And if that reviewer is not, then it won't. And it's not about automating all of those things. It's really just about basically it's basically just an escrow, and it's all transparent. And if people say it's a scam, then people lose their credibility. And reviewers are even optional. You don't have to have a reviewer. It could just be like, oh, hey, give us $10,000. And that's how Ethereum Foundation does grants, right? And so people can propose that and say, oh, guess what? Just give me money, no accountability. And that's fair. That's a fair option. But I think more people will end up following the Aragon style, where it's like, here's some money up front to get started, but then you need to complete these milestones to get the rest of the funds.
Also, the funds that would be given to the locals would be XDAI?
The funds that are held in escrow are XDAI, but at the very last second, when they ask to receive the money, it's converted into tokens. And then we give those ideally we give the people an easy way to convert those tokens back into XDAI. But we have to pay out in tokens so that they're basically members of the organization too. And the people who are participating should get governance rights, and the tokens allow governance rights. So we make it easy for them to participate if they want. And the speculative token, if they can't afford to, hopefully will go up in value maybe, right? But if they choose to cash out, they also have to pay the fee, right? So there'll be like a 2% fee that feeds the commons. So when they get paid, they get 2% of the money effectively, if they cash it all out, would go back into the commons to feed other projects.
So if you think about it this way, all work that's done within the commons is paid in commons token. So if you are doing work to forward the commons, whether that's like creating proposals, moving work forward, so right, you have an expectation of what you're going to be paid in XDAI because that's in escrow, but when you're actually paid, it's within the economy of the commons. So you're paid in the native token, and that gives you governance rights, and that gives kind of that common ownership to the workers instead of just the investors.
So I was still latching on the example of the locals buying seeds. So they will need to buy seeds in, I guess, in local currencies, or how do we expect for them to actually make use of cashing out? And I'm missing that link on how do they actually buy stuff in the physical markets.
I mean, I don't think this project is ready to roll out to an Indonesian village. It's nice to have the proof of concept, but I mean, there are so many aspects of this technology that we're waiting on for. I mean, ideally, long term, this would be a mobile app. This would be basically like a membership. You join memberships on this app. You get easy push notifications, how you delegate your votes. When you complete work, you have some kind of Oracle system. When you start a proposal, you have some sort of like form that you can fill out, kind of like a business proposal, but like a proposal for funds and for work. And then you're paid and you receive that payment on mobile. I mean, we're still very far away from an on the ground use case, but we need to kind of fit the pieces together before we can even get there.
And Ome, if you want, I mean, since you do work for Biddy and I'm in Aura Libre's office right now, it wouldn't be hard to create a storyline around the money being on an Aura Libre app, and we could do reforestation in Mexico, and we could build a storyline around it without doing any dev work. We could do that even beforehand and build a story where Biddy uses, or Aura Libre uses Biddy to cash out the XDAI into real money at an OXXO, and we can do that whole last mile, because obviously we are working on that. But I would definitely keep it out of our scope for deving at the hackathon.
Yeah, I was just asking about that detail in the narrative when presented.
Yeah, I actually really like. I think that's a good point. And since are you working with Aura Libre? And Rafa?
Yeah, we're collaborating.
But are you specifically, or are you just kind of you're on the other side of things?
Myself.
Yeah.
I'm another side of things, but I see Rafa quite often.
Yeah, nice. Me too. He's. I don't think he's here yet.
Whom, Rafa?
Yeah, I'm at his office.
Okay, from my side.
Yeah, sorry, but I'm sleeping in his office right now. But anyway, we should go back to
Cool. Yeah.
I'm sure there's more questions about the details of how this stuff works.
We can start from with building some initial specification, like writing roles and scenarios, just as a draft. And before the next call, I can send it to review and pose more practical, technical questions.
So when you say roles, do you mean like for the people on the team, or?
No. What I mean is the users of the applications, like what would be the scenarios, right? How do we see the interaction? What abilities roles have, and so on.
Nice. Yeah.
Like use case scenarios.
So this is another. This brings to another point, like logistically, like does anyone have time to work kind of on this at all before the hackathon? I think Max and I will definitely be working on like the design, the narrative, these kinds of things. Does anyone else have some time to spare on that, or not really? I know Ome doesn't.
I do.
I have.
From both sides.
Deem, you do too?
Yeah,
Nice.
a bit. Yeah.
That's nice, because I'm really excited about getting Pando into this project in general. So, and Abby's in, and Chris I think is in a little bit. So all the useless people and Deem. No, just kidding. Because we're not devs, you know. I just feel so useless all the time. But we can probably build out a lot of this, a lot of the groundwork, and then set the design and the scope for what we build at the hackathon. And ideally at the hackathon, it's just a well-oiled machine that is deving on shit with a clear scope, and we're not trying to like, oh, but wait, this will work or this won't work. Like, the real goal is to get all of that stuff done before the hackathon and know what we're building when we go in.
Yeah, the integration part can be really hard, because the cross-team communication can be not that optimal there.
Well, hopefully we'll all be sleeping in the same boat, and we're also all going to be like working on tables next to each other, ideally. So there will definitely be. I mean, the team one, it sounds like they're going to start working on this project tonight. So like, I think integrating with their stuff will be really easy. They'll probably deploy the contracts like the first thing they do when they get there, hopefully. And then team two, I'm not as sure about how deep they'll be able to go before the hackathon, but I think we'll probably be we already have we rely more on them than they rely on us, is what I would say. So a lot of the stuff that like even team two is doing, they could just put X, Y, Z and do conviction voting on it. So
we also have a lot of resources outside of the teams that will want this to succeed. So there will be, a number of Jedi that will be available and helping each team and molding that, whatever needs assistance during the hackathon.
Any other questions before we move this call on?
I think the one thing that I'd suggest is just, sorry.
Go ahead.
So, okay, the one thing I'd suggest is that I shared our product spec doc with you guys, and maybe putting together like something like that for your team as we all start, consolidating our thinking on it, so we can, talking about the cross-team interoperability like during the event, going into it with kind of like complete alignment with like what all of our scopes are, would be super valuable. So we should probably spin up that. I probably shouldn't take lead on it because I'm doing the other one, but if someone wants to take lead on that, maybe Griff, it's you, and we can all contribute and kind of consolidate thinking there.
Yeah, Max has already been sort of working on that. So
good, awesome.
The big question mark I have on scope for this team is that trigger function of what says that it's a successful milestone. Whether or not Team 2 should do that or we should do that, that's kind of, I want to lay that out for. I want to leave that for later to decide. But
I wanted to ask, like, Depla and Ome and Dim, how do you feel about this project? Can you maybe share, like, reaction?
About the overall project or this team's project?
Mostly this team.
So I'm not exactly sure what is the scope of this team. So if I understand better team 1 and 2 than this team's scope, so maybe I could get some, I don't know, the three most important things that we are going to be doing to support the goal. In practical terms, I mean.
I can react to that really quick. So, number 1, retrofitting Giveth so that it knows when it's been donated from a specific address, that money is sent to the token bonding curve and the people receive tokens. So that's 1. Number 2 is making it easy for people to nominate milestones and add them to the conviction voting UI, which we are going to need to collaborate. Like, that UI is going to be worked on by both. Their team is going to work on how people vote on it, and we're going to work on how people nominate to it. So it is one UI that's in both teams' scope right now. And if you guys think we should scope it differently, I'm totally down. But that's for the tech team to kind of decide. And then the other thing is, like, with those nominations, milestones need to be able to fall off, and then the like ambiguous piece is milestones need to be triggered to be funded, and I think that's in our scope more likely than not.
So are we writing contracts?
Yeah, there'll be we'll need to write a smart contract for the Giveth side of things to like know if it's funded here and sending money to the token bonding curve so people receive tokens. That will require a smart contract. A plugin into the liquid pledging system shouldn't be too crazy, but it will need to be integrated. And there will also need to be some kind of smart contract for that trigger function to say, oh yes, money can be sent from the pool to this, right? There also need to be a smart contract. I don't know if it's necessarily a smart contract we write, but we'll need to at least, yeah, I guess it would be the part of the conviction voting smart contract where whether or not it's, no, I guess really it's just the front end for whether or not the milestone should be displayed in the conviction voting module.
We are assuming gas is free, I guess.
Yeah, on XDAI gas is free.
That sounds crazy expensive.
No, on XDAI gas is basically free.
When you said before that when you pay someone, you pay them in DAI, then this DAI gets converted to the token, then that gets into the curve, then they get the token and they should convert back to DAI. All of that happens in how many transactions?
Very many transactions. So people don't get the money. Money goes to Giveth, and it sits in a milestone, right? And then that all happen. This should all happen on XDAI. So there's a transaction when the pool funds the milestone. then there's a few transactions for like the milestone being reviewed, maybe, right? And then there's them pushing a button, which is a transaction that all in one step sends the XDAI that's in the milestone to the token bonding curve, and then the token bonding curve sends the tokens to the person, and then the person gets to choose a second transaction if they want. If they're happy holding the tokens, then there's no more transactions. If they want to convert the tokens, some percentage of the tokens, to XDAI, then they burn the tokens, and that's one transaction.
Okay.
Deem, you were unmuting a couple times. Maybe.
I have nothing right now, but I have one thing. I think that for me at least, I need to look at the ducks definitely to understand it better of what we are trying to do, and also if we could have a user story or something, that would help a lot also.
Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of docs yet. I think Max is going to be our point person on making the docs, and I'll keep editing. Jeff will edit. Abby will probably kick in. Chris will kick in. And so we'll try to generate some docs and feed them around.
I think this
I'm down to
process would be
help
really great.
generate some user flows. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think this process would be really great for us to work out those things. It would be great as we come across these, these concerns. It would be great to kind of like flesh out that user story. And I mean, a lot of it still needs to be scoped out. And that the technological limitations will definitely play a large part in that. But also, clarifying the story so that we know what we're building for ultimately.
Yeah, I think that I can take a shot at some of those user flows with you, Max, if you'd like to as well, especially after I get this article out that's kind of like setting the stage for like what this design is and stuff. So let's definitely touch base on that and work together.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so Dapline, I love Max's comment there. Did you have any more reactions to this overall?
You mentioned that maybe Team 1 will start working today. If they do some progress, will that be available in a hub or somewhere for review?
Yeah, 100%. I think that we're getting together tomorrow to start putting some initial stuff back on a public repo and stuff. So that will all be sent through the big Telegram group. Everything's going to be put there. So just keep an eye out, and we'll make sure that any progress that is made is communicated to the rest of the teams.
Yeah, I think obviously we need to keep like a very open source
totally
style here to make everything easy.
But is that okay for the hackathon to work on things beforehand?
I actually specifically asked this morning in our call with them, and they encouraged it.
Okay.
They said, of course, we'll be judged during the hackathon on what we did during the hackathon, right? But as much stuff that we can build before and as much stuff that we can work off, that's really exciting to them. Dean, did you have any more reactions?
Can't remember right now. So no, just go on.
Cool. Well, I guess then the action steps here. I'm so sorry about the construction in the background. We're building an office over here. But the next action steps are Max and I work on the documents. I don't think that we need necessarily a call in the next 2 weeks or anything, but we probably will need a call in about 2 weeks just to check in on things and get updates. Also, is anyone going to Paris at all for the hackathon?
Yeah,
Hackathon.
I'm still doubting. Do you know, Griff, who's going, who's not?
I know Kai will be there. Spunnet will be there. I'll be there. There were like 2 or 3 other people that would be there.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, I don't understand. The hackathon can happen remote?
No, but there's a
what do you mean?
There's a Paris hackathon, a different hackathon.
Okay.
Next week. So at Paris, right? So there's like a whole blockchain week in Paris, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna hack on something. Hopefully, the conviction voting module is what I'm hoping that we hack on, but we'll see. And then it'll just be like good practice. So if anyone's there, it'd be fun to hack. But then the other hackathon, we all have to be there in Amsterdam. So make sure you mark your calendars.
Oh yeah, one last thing, just to clarify, we're working on the Giveth stack, right? So it's really important that we maybe look into, the Giveth side of things, how it all works and stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I think on this team, you're the best, most familiar with it. I don't know how deep you looked at the smart contracts. I think for the most part, we'll only need to work on the smart contracts, not the front end. But maybe there'll be like a little bit of front end, like adding that button that allows people to convert tokens. That might need to be happening. And also, a lot of this stuff can happen from Giveth people. Like we can make a fork and we can do some of this stuff beforehand.
And how is the accommodation going to work on the Odyssey hackathon?
Can you say that again?
Yeah, how is the accommodation going to work?
Yeah, we got a boat. So yeah, we got a boat. It's gonna cost like somewhere around $35 a day per person. So and the nice thing is we're all gonna get paid to go to this hackathon effectively. Like even if we lose, we should all get $100 or something. So that should pretty much cover accommodation. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we're gonna win. So it's a good investment.
So it's one boat for how many people?
Yeah, it's a big fucking boat. Here, I'll grab the link.
That's crazy.
Let me see here.
Sorry guys, I will need to run. Have you discussed all the things?
Yeah, I think so. The only thing is if anyone has any action steps, it seems like the big ones are just us getting our documentation in line so that we can understand the scope and communicate it effectively internally, and with special focus on integration points and stuff like that. We also need to get 2 more team members. It seems like we are pretty well stacked on the dev side. Is anyone good with CSS?
I'm good with CSS.
Okay, cool. So then yeah, I don't see any specific dev needs. We can just look at cool people that we want to work with, I guess. Who likes presenting? Ome, are you a presenter?
I can present.
That doesn't sound like a full-on endorsement.
I want to try, actually.
Yeah, you want to present, Dean?
Yeah, I want to try. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, then there we go. Dean, you'll have to practice a little bit. There's a lot of money on the line from presenting.
Yeah, but it also depends. Like, we have one presenter, or like we could also split things up, I guess.
Yeah, I think splitting things up is probably, we're going to do that no matter what. Like, everybody should get up there and say a piece of what they did, but then there's probably got to be one overall. So team formation, documentation, all this stuff will happen. I don't want to hold you guys any longer. I don't think there's any other action steps. So
one other thing in the documentation, if we can also have some section with references on the scope of the project and also the Giveth stack. If there's something else that we can read ahead of time, that's going to be really useful.
Okay, and here's the boat in the Jitsi. Okay, We've got to let Max go
Great.
and everyone else. So, bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
See you later.
Bye, guys.